We're looking at the anti-corruption war. In particular, we're looking at this matter between the EFCC and the Nigerian Bar Association's president, who made a suggestion. Mr. Abubakar Mahmood, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's just state here that we reached out to the EFCC and we're told that they had already issued a statement concerning this matter. Well, Mr. Mahmood, the EFCC authorities seem not to be happy with your suggestion that they need a restructuring. Why do you think that's so?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. As you know, I've just been sworn in as the president of the Nigeria Bar Association.
And we must say congratulations on that, even though it would seem that there were some matters in court around the area, but nevertheless, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Now, as is customary at the inaugural ceremony, I read my speech and set out the broad vision of the Nigeria Bar Association under my leadership. It's a fairly lengthy speech of about 30 pages, and in one paragraph of it, we set out some ideas about the way to go forward. Now, in any democratic society, you must have freedom to debate issues publicly. And there's absolutely no reason why there's all this unnecessary controversy. In the address, what we said was, we commit ourselves to the struggle against corruption, and we commit the Bar Association to contribute to that. And going forward, we need to look at the institution of the criminal justice systems generally, including, of course, the EFCC. And then I gave some ideas as to what needs to be done. Now, the reaction of the EFCC is totally uncalled for. The EFCC was set up in 2004. We're talking about 12 years now. So there is absolutely no reason why Nigerians cannot discuss, scrutinize the roles of these institutions to see what has happened over these 12 years. If indeed the structure is working properly and the mandate has been achieved, we probably wouldn't have the situation we have at the moment. So this reaction in which certain very unsavory remarks were being made were clearly not necessary, and it's meant probably to intimidate the Bar Association, and which is totally uncalled for.
So when you spoke, you spoke your mind as, was that setting the agenda, that the Bar Association would pursue underneath your presidency? Was that what you were trying to do there?
Well, you see, the Bar Association is a very structured organization. It has its 8 organs and decision-making processes. Now, I, as president, cannot, of course, impose my personal views on it. Nevertheless, I'm the chief spokesperson of the Bar Association. Now, therefore, it's normal and it's usual for me to say certain things in order to set the direction in which the Bar Association will be going. Now, if you look at the address, in one small sentence, we said we'll be making detailed recommendations through the Anti-Corruption Commission of the NBA. Now, the EFCC could have waited to see what those detailed recommendations would be. But that is neither here nor there. Let us go to the real issues at stake. Now, generally, there are 2 major powers when you come to prosecution and or fight against corruption. The first is that we have investigative powers and prosecutorial powers. And then it is the work of these 2 processes that ends up in court. And the courts then have adjudicatory powers. Now, generally, people are aware of the division between adjudication and prosecution. And this is necessary because it is constitutionally guaranteed. But the less recognized division is probably between investigative powers and prosecutorial powers. Now, traditionally, under the system we operate in this part of the world, there's always a separation between these 2 powers. Now, the norm is that separate agencies conduct investigations and separate agencies conduct prosecution. This is the norm in generally most Commonwealth countries. Now, however, there are exceptions. In the UK, for instance, after the events in I think 1980 or something like that, there's a committee that was set up by the British government under Lord Roskill. And they came up with the recommendation, especially in serious fraud cases, that the separation of these two functions has somehow hindered the successful prosecution of serious fraud cases. So the United Kingdom is only one institution, the Serious Fraud Office, that has these combined responsibilities of prosecution and investigation. But if you look at the institution itself, the way it is set up and the way it is organized, and the maturity of the UK institutions in the criminal justice sector, you will appreciate that it is highly unlikely that there will be abuses of the type that we see sometimes in other countries.
So did you make the suggestion, because essentially I think it's very important that we put out what your suggestion was to our viewers. You suggested that they be stripped of the prosecutorial powers and concentrate mostly on investigation. Was your suggestion based on what you'd seen operate in other countries, or do you think that that was as a result of some abuse that is going on within the EFCC?
You see, if you look at the law established in the EFCC, and you look at even the composition of the commission, I don't know how many of you have looked at it, but the composition of you see there's a commission that acts as a board, kind of, that superintends over the activities of the EFCC. Now, if you look at the composition of the board, with organizations like the NCC, like the SEC, like the NDIC, and the rest of them, and you look at the general functions of the commission, you will clearly see that one of the major focus is intelligence and investigation. Admittedly, there is a unit that is supposed to be in charge of prosecution, which is spelled out in the body of the law. But the main thrust of the law itself is intelligence and investigation. Now, in my own speech, what we said was simply this, that we need to secure the independence of the agency in terms of political interference. You cannot have a prosecution agency that reports to somehow political authorities. It's not done and it's not acceptable. Now, so we suggested that we need to define also the mandate of the EFCC more narrowly. You see, in the criminal justice sector, you have several agencies that operate, and EFCC is only one of them, and it's supposed to focus on highly specialized areas, financial and economic crime, terrorism, and the rest of it. So you can't have the EFCC operating broadly and generally and getting into everything, without any thresholds. The law must define the thresholds and must define the parameters on the basis of which the EFCC will then wade into those sort of matters. The EFCC is not supposed to substitute the Nigeria police, is not substitute all the other agencies in the investigation. It's supposed to focus on highly specialized areas of financial crimes of certain magnitude, of certain public interest, or certain importance, policy-wise, for instance. Now, so if you define the mandate narrowly, you secure its political independence from political interference, then you're making it more efficient and more effective.